I want to talk to you. I realize it's kind of the point of this channel. I want to talk to you about an opinion that I feel like I've had changed maybe the last 10 minutes or so. I don't know. I was recording an episode of the Player Manager podcast earlier today. And we were talking about a lot of things as we do, myself and Julian Gressel, who plays on Inter Miami. Cool guy. And we're talking about the penalty that Robert Lewandowski took for Poland against France. Now, this is a massive penalty, by the way. It knocks France off the top of the group because Lewandowski eventually ends up scoring it, which is a huge freaking deal, right? Because that has massive ramifications on the way the draw looks for everybody. It means Austria ends up on top of their group, which is kind of nuts. A lot of different, the ramifications of this goal, massive, even though they don't necessarily matter for Poland. Poland's able to get a draw against France at a major tournament, so I guess that's something Lewandowski's able to hang his hat on. But, the situational explanation aside, there's a penalty in the game, and Robert Lewandowski is the person designated to take this penalty. Now, what Lewandowski decides to do in taking this penalty is something that it's been a part of the game for a really long time. From Jorginho to Neymar or whatever, there's been people that have been doing fancy, weird run-ups for penalties. And I've had this kind of misconception about how exactly, what exactly it says in the rule book when it comes to this actual run-up. So my understanding was basically that, if you're taking a penalty and you start moving towards the ball, and then you stop completely, it kind of voids the penalty. But I actually don't think that's the case anymore. If that's not the case in the rules, then I actually think that the stutter step stuff might be great. Anyways, here's the penalty first. I'm going to show it to you first. So he's running up. He pauses once. Boom. Actually, you want to know what's hilarious is that this Fox Sports clip doesn't even show the full penalty run up. That's just world class. So there we go. I've found the full run up of the penalty now. We've got the hip and a hip. And gets saved, right? So that's the first penalty. He stops once, he stops twice. Really, stops both times, does the little Jorginho hop and a skip, and it gets saved by Minen. Now, people got really bent out of shape here because Minen came off his line to make the save. And you can't really blame Minen for coming off his line to make the save because you've got Lewandowski performing the entirety of Swan Lake before he actually takes the penalty, right? But let's be honest, if the rules are the way that they are, right, and they appear to be, if I'm a penalty taker, I think basically every penalty taker in the world should be doing this. Because if you play sports at a high level or you talk to people that play sports at a high level, one of the most valuable things that you can do over the course of the sport, it's not how fast you move, it's the amount that you are able to vary your speed, the timing of which you are able to do something that people don't expect. Right? It's about being able to throw your opponent off in any way that you can. And so a lot of people look at these types of penalties and think, oh, they're unnatural, myself included, until I really started diving into this today because I thought it was stupid. But I thought, how is Minen getting punished for leaving his line by just like an inch? Right? Well, more than an inch. But how is he getting punished for just scuttling off his line a little bit if Lewandowski is once again performing Irish dance before he takes the penalty? Well, I'm here thinking that, okay, well, the rules are the rules. I think it would be more fair. I realize the rules are the rules is not a great explanation, but I think it would be more fair if goalkeepers, the moment that somebody breaks their stride coming forward, were allowed to start coming forward off their line. I think that would, really kind of spice up penalty kicks a lot. I think that would almost be a lot more fair. It would create perhaps more tension and drama and a little less guessing if the goalkeeper didn't have to hug the line the whole time. But given the fact that the way the rules are written, at least according to this Sporting News article, who really went into the great extent to try and break it down, you can do basically everything except for feinting, kicking the ball, and then kicking it. So you can't run up to the ball and pump fake a shot one direction and then shoot the other direction. That is against the rules. But basically everything else is in play here. I'll read it to you. According to the official IFAB laws of the game, there's significant room to allow a penalty taker to stop and start their run-up multiple times. The only restriction is feigning to kick the ball once the kicker has completed the run-up. Feigning is defined simply as an action which attempts to confuse the opponent, right? So if you're attempting to tell the opponent that you're going one way and then go the other, which of course you're trying to do in a lot of subtle ways, but you can't do with an actual feint, as long as the penalty, this is their interpretation anyways, as long as the penalty taker does not take a deliberate action to fake kick the ball at the end of his run-up, he may do anything prior to that in an attempt to confuse the goalkeeper. Thus, stutter step run-ups are allowed in essentially every capacity as the rules are written. Watching this, I always figured it was the same thing as traveling in the NBA, where referees over time had just been a little more lenient and a little more lenient and a little more lenient. So now you're able to do all these sorts of stutter steps because referees are never going to stop it. But now looking at this and understanding the concept, there was a pretty large meltdown about Lewandowski because he came back and then scored again. He came back and he scored the second one, and honestly, it was even worse. You got the one and the walk and the second, third. Yeah, I mean, he goes the same spot as well. That one's even more egregious and worse than the last one. You're thinking, how could he possibly not be stopping in one of those positions? But I can't believe I'm making this video. I can't believe I changed my mind. I think that's probably it's a healthy thing to do. It's a healthy thing to change your mind. But here's where I wouldn't recommend doing this. Right now, I'm as much as I am willing to plant my flag in the ground and kind of go to war with people that say this is a bad idea. If you can throw off the timing of your opponent by doing this and it's within the laws of the game, why the hell not do it? That's my official counter argument to all of that. But I do feel like a lot of people, you shouldn't do this if you don't practice it. All right. And I feel like that this is one of those traps, like a 3-point shot in basketball, where, yeah, it can be a good idea for some people. But if you're not good at it, then it's a terrible idea. That's going to lower your percentage of scoring by a lot, right? So if you don't practice it, and I feel like you can tell which players this is kind of about. If you don't practice it, and then you try and pull one of these out, it's just not going to go well. And so it's always going to get a bad rap because you're always afraid when you're watching somebody winding up to do it that it's not going to go well. Now, there are certain people that are very, very good at it, whether that be Jorginho or whatever. But Jorginho, he gets penalties saved too, right? Neymar gets penalties saved as well, right? Every single person on the face of the earth is going to get penalties saved because nobody's perfect. And a goalkeeper guessing right and getting to the exact same spot that you happen to be planning on putting the ball in, you're going to get saved. So nothing's bulletproof, but I am remarkably, maybe it's just because I'm disgustingly sick, I'm remarkably unbothered by this. I think the biggest epidemic around this is probably a misunderstanding in the first place of what exactly you're allowed to do in the run-up, where apparently you are really just allowed to do this in your run-up to a penalty kick. There is nothing that prevents you from doing this, and it's amazing. I would say like maybe at least 80% of me changing my mind on this, having gone from the podcast recording to this, is down to the fact that I now feel like it is something that is legal to be done in the game. And especially in a major international tournament, right? Aren't you just doing everything that you possibly could to win the game? Whatever. Lewandowski, though, RIP in peace, probably the last time we're going to see him playing a major role at a major tournament, and he didn't even get to play a major role because injuries were bothering him going into the tournament in the first place. But it was a difficult group. Poland was always going to struggle to get, a couple of good results in this group. A draw with France is obviously fantastic. So on their way home as one of the 8 teams eliminated in the group stage, they can at least wear that as a badge of honor or something. But penalty gate, really not that big a deal.